Chapter 12. Helen, Memphis, Hortense, and her husband grabbed the first table they saw at the Regal Room. Memphis was impressed. The lounge looked like something out of a movie scene. The entire place was red. Red lights, red furniture, and the waitresses all wore little sleeveless red dresses. The theme of the lounge was plush. There were plush red crushed velvet chairs and sofas, and even the bar was outlined in crushed velvet. There was a huge dance ball hanging above the dance floor that shined like a diamond and reflected red from the floor to the walls and ceiling. There was also a live band that played good music. It was something to see. After a couple rounds of drinks, a male singer grabbed the microphone. "I heard no other city can do the dog better than East St. Louis." The crowd went wild. The singer laughed. "So is it true?" "Hell yeah," the crowd shouted. "I hear they call this city East Boogie." "That's right," the crowd shouted. "Let's see if East Boogie can live up to the hype. Everybody get on the floor and..." Then he raised his hand to signal the band and dropped it back down where the sound of the horns coincided in sync. Then he began to sing. "Do the dog, do the dog, do the dog. Everybody's doing the dog." "Come on, Memphis Cobb. It's time to do the dog," Lou shouted as she grabbed his hand and ushered him to the dance floor, with Hortense and her husband following close behind. At first, Memphis didn't know what to do, so he just two-stepped while watching Lou. Lou started hunching her back in and out with her hands on her knees. Then she started taking one step after another while never breaking her stride. Memphis then thought that maybe this wasn't really a dance made for men until he saw Hortense and her husband. Her husband held her by the waist and they began doing the dog in unison. Then Hortense turned around and stepped back a few steps away from him and pretended she had a lasso. She looped him by the neck and he jumped down on his knees. She then turned her back to him and started doing the dog. Her husband, being the dog, kept up and they were still in unison. The people who saw them shouted, "Do the dog," and Memphis laughed until his side hurt, but he was not about to be outdone. So he jumped down on his knees, grabbed Lou's hand, and motioned for her to sit sideways on his back. And when she did, Memphis started doing the dog on his hands and knees while carrying Lou. And when the singer saw that, he said, "I see why they call it East Boogie." Then he continued to sing, "Do the hound dog, do the bulldog, do the bird dog, just any kind of dog. Everybody's doing the dog." Memphis hadn't had that much fun in a very long time. After they left the lounge, the couple went to Leela's diner. "Well, what have we here?" Leela asked. "4 hungry people, that's who," Hortense replied. "I bet you are. Y'all look like y'all balled till you just couldn't ball no more," Leela responded. "You could say that again," Hortense's husband said. "Leela, we had to show Memphis how to do the dog," Helen said. "Oh, really? And how did he do?" Leela asked. "Let's just say my knees are sore," Memphis replied. They all laughed. "A man that danced that hard deserves a hearty breakfast. How does steak and eggs all around sound?" Leela asked. "Yes, and coffee for everyone, please," Helen replied. Leela laughed. "Coming right up." "I can't believe how good you was," Hortense said. "I can't believe how fast you learned to dance," Helen said. Memphis looked at Hortense's husband and said, "Well, you know, my boy was doing the damn thing. I watched and learned from the best." Hortense's husband's chest swelled with pride. "Now you know I'm going to make it do what it do," he said. Then the two men saluted one another and they all laughed. After finishing breakfast, the couples parted ways. On the drive home, Lou looked at Memphis. "What?" he asked. "Nothing," she replied. "Then why are you staring at me like that?" "Because." "Because what?" "Because you never cease to amaze me, Mr. Cobb." Oh, really? Yes, really. You're a man of many talents, she said. Memphis smiled. Baby, you have no idea. When Lou walked inside the house, Helen was in the kitchen drinking a cup of coffee. I heard y'all had a good time last night. Lou smiled. Okay, what did Auntie Leela tell you? Lou teased. Helen chuckled. Now you know she called me, don't you? Lou nodded her head. I know. Leela said she sent me a plate. Where's my steak and eggs? Helen asked. Here it is. And she gave you some grits and toast, too. You better eat it while it's still hot, Lou replied. You ain't got to tell me twice. Hand me a knife and fork, Helen said. Lou gave her the silverware, poured herself a cup of coffee, and sat down at the table with Helen. You know, Mama, Memphis is a hoot. I can't remember when I had such a good time, she said. Helen took a sip of her coffee. Lou, you need to marry that man. He's strong, a hard worker, and kind. He loves you and your boys, and that is something special. Mama, I'm not sure that I want to get married. And how do you know he wants to marry me? Hell, I'm not blind, Lou, and you ain't neither. I don't know, Lou said. I think you do. I think marrying Memphis and moving to California with him is all you dream about. It's time you start waiting for somebody else to come and make your dreams come true and realize only you can do that, Helen said. But Mama, it's not that easy. It may not be that easy, but it is that simple. Now, a while back, you asked me to move with you and the boys to California, and I told you I ain't lost nothing there and I ain't gonna find nothing there. But you did. When you wasn't looking, California came to you. Memphis is your dream. Don't let your dream fade away, Helen said. But how can I pack up and leave you, Mama? I just can't, Lou said. Helen reached across the table and placed her hand on top of Lou's hand. Baby, I'm only a phone call away. And even in death, I'll still be with you. All you got to do is talk to me, and I promise I'll answer you in your dreams. You hear me? Tears rolled down Lou's face. Yes, Mama, I hear you. Good, because you can always come back home, but you can't always go. You go and enjoy your life, baby, Helen said. Lou got up from the table and gave her mama a big hug. I just love you so much, Mama. Over the next few weeks, Lou was busy packing for the move, and Memphis was back in California getting the house ready for his future wife and children. They had it all figured out. They would get married on Saturday and leave for California the very next Saturday. It would give them a chance to celebrate with family and have a few days to themselves before leaving. Johnny Mae's husband, the Reverend, married Memphis and Lou at Helen's house. It was Lou's idea. She had a church wedding with her first husband, but this time she decided to get married at her favorite place, home. Helen, Leela, Johnny Mae, and Hortense all gladly pitched in to make sure everything was beautiful, and it was. There were yellow roses all around, and Lou carried them as her wedding bouquet. They were her favorite flower. She wore a white lace dress that flared at the bottom and had a sweetheart neckline. Her hair was brushed in a swept bang to the left that ended in a spiral ponytail at the end and hung on the right side of her head and rested right above her right breast. There was a yellow rose on top of the ponytail holder that kept her hair in place. Luella looked absolutely beautiful. After the ceremony, music was played and people danced. Leela and her daughter Georgia put on a spread that you wouldn't believe, and everyone ate until they were completely full. It was a wonderful day, celebrated by family and close loved ones, and Lou, along with her newlywed husband, were happier than they had ever been. The next week, Helen watched Lou and the boys board the train with Memphis. As the train started to roll down the tracks, she waved while holding back tears. "We love you, Big Mama," from the boys was the last word she heard before the train picked up speed and she could no longer see it. Helen was happy for Lou, and she was glad Memphis walked into her daughter's life. Although she never told anyone, Lou reminded her so much of Helena, and since Helena didn't get a chance to have a happy ending, she felt good in knowing that Lou would. After Teddy dropped Helen off at home, it dawned on her that she had little ones and not so little ones underfoot since she was a little girl, always having to take care of someone. This was the first time in her entire life there was no one to take care of. This didn't make Helen sad. It made her feel complete, like there was no other task at hand for her, and she felt content. She walked through the house to put back in place anything that was out of order, but Leela, Georgia, Johnny May, and Hortense had already taken care of it. The house was immaculate. So she made some tea, changed into her gown, and laid in her bed.